In those days, Methuselah took a wife for his son Lamech, and she became pregnant, giving birth to a son. This child was unlike any other. His skin was as white as snow, with a flush of red like the blooming of a rose. His hair, long and white as wool, fell in soft waves, and his eyes were radiant and beautiful. When the infant opened his eyes, the light that poured from them illuminated the entire house, filling it with a brightness akin to the sun. In that moment, the child rose in the arms of the midwife, and as if guided by a higher power, opened his mouth and spoke words of blessing to the Lord of righteousness. Lamech, the child's father, was struck with terror. Overcome by fear, he fled from his home and went in haste to his father, Methuselah. He cried out, "I have brought forth a strange son, one unlike any man. He bears the likeness of the sons of the God of heaven, and his nature is different from ours. His eyes shine like the rays of the sun, and his face is full of glory. It seems to me that he is not of my blood, but of the angels. I fear that in his days great wonders will unfold upon the earth." Lamech, trembling, pleaded with his father, "Now I ask of you, go to Enoch, our ancestor, and seek the truth from him, for he dwells among the angels and will surely know what this means." Upon hearing these words, Methuselah set out to find Enoch, journeying to the very ends of the earth where he had heard Enoch resided. He called out with a loud voice, and Enoch, hearing him, came to meet him. "Behold, here I am, my son," said Enoch. "Why have you sought me?" Methuselah answered, "I have come to you with great anxiety. A vision has troubled me, and I am deeply disturbed. My son Lamech has had a child, but this child is unlike any other. His skin is whiter than snow and redder than the bloom of a rose. His hair is whiter than wool, and his eyes shine with the brilliance of the sun. When he opened his eyes, he lit up the entire house. He rose in the midwife's hands and blessed the Lord of heaven. Lamech, in his fear, fled to me, doubting that the child is his own, believing him to be in the likeness of the angels of heaven. I have come to you to learn the truth of this." Enoch listened and then spoke with solemnity. "The Lord is about to do a new thing on the earth. This I have seen in a vision. In the days of my father Jared, some of the angels of heaven transgressed the command of the Lord. They sinned and broke the law by taking human wives. With them, they bore children, committing great sin. Soon a great destruction will sweep over the earth, a flood that will last 1 full year, cleansing the land of its impurities. But this son who has been born to you, he shall be spared. He and his 3 children will survive when all other men perish. Giants shall walk the earth, born not of spirit but of flesh, and they will bring great punishment upon the world. Yet through it all, the earth will be purified of its corruption." Enoch continued, "Now go and tell your son Lamech that this child is indeed his own, born of his flesh. You shall name him Noah, for he will be left to you, and he and his sons will be saved from the destruction that is coming upon the earth, for all the sin and unrighteousness that will culminate in his days." Enoch's voice grew heavier as he warned, "But even after the flood, the earth will again fall into deeper wickedness, more than before. I know this, for I have seen the mysteries of the holy ones, revealed to me by the Lord. He has shown me, and I have read it in the heavenly tablets. The transgressions will continue, generation after generation, until finally, a generation of righteousness arises. When that day comes, all sin will be destroyed, and goodness will fill the earth." Enoch then turned to Methuselah, "Go now, my son, and tell Lamech that this child is his, and that the words I speak are true." When Methuselah heard the words of his father, he returned to Lamech, telling him all that Enoch had revealed. Lamech named his son Noah, for it was foretold that Noah would bring comfort to the earth after the great destruction. In those days, Noah beheld the earth, and his heart grew heavy with sorrow. The ground beneath his feet had sunken, and he knew that destruction was near, inevitable. With a deep, trembling voice he cried out, not once, but 3 times, "Hear me, hear me, hear me!" His plea echoed across the desolate lands as he sought the wisdom of his grandfather, Enoch, his soul burdened with dread. From the silence, Enoch responded, "What has caused such despair on the earth that it trembles so violently? Speak to me, Noah, for I fear that this turmoil may consume even me." But as Noah began to reply, the earth quaked beneath him. A great upheaval tore through the land, and a voice, mighty, reverberating, thundered from the heavens. Overcome with awe and fear, Noah collapsed, his face pressed against the earth. In that moment, Enoch appeared, standing tall and radiant beside him. With gentle reproach, he asked, "Why, my child, have you called out to me with such anguish and tears?" His voice grew solemn as he continued, "A decree has been sent forth from the very presence of the Lord. Those who dwell on the earth are marked for ruin, for they have uncovered forbidden knowledge. They have learned the hidden secrets of the angels, the violent ways of the Satans, and have tapped into powers never meant for man. They have mastered sorcery and witchcraft, and they have created molten images that curse the earth." He spoke of the mysteries they had stolen. They have drawn silver from the dust of the earth, discovered the origin of soft metals, and yet lead and tin, unlike the others, spring forth from a fountain deep within the earth. This fountain is guarded by an angel, a being of immense power and authority. Then Enoch took Noah by the hand, lifting him from the ground. "Go now, my son, for I have sought the Lord of Spirits concerning this chaos that stirs the earth." His reply was clear. "Their judgment is sealed, and it shall not be delayed. Because of the sorceries they have unearthed, and the darkness they have embraced, the earth and all who dwell upon it will be swept away in destruction." With a grave tone, Enoch revealed the fate of those who had transgressed. "These sinners have no hope of repentance. They are damned for eternity, for they have unveiled what was meant to remain hidden. But fear not, Noah, for the Lord of Spirits knows you are pure, untouched by this corruption. You are guiltless in his eyes." Enoch's voice softened, filled with both sorrow and hope. "The Lord has chosen your name to dwell among the holy. He will preserve you, even as the earth falls to ruin. And from your line a legacy shall rise, a royal and righteous seed, destined for great honor. A fountain of righteousness shall spring forth from your descendants, beyond measure and for all time." Then Enoch showed Noah the angels of punishment, fierce and ready, prepared to unleash the powers of the deep waters beneath the earth. They stood waiting to bring judgment and destruction upon all who walked the land. But the Lord of Spirits held them back, commanding the waters to remain in check, for the time had not yet come. And so Noah departed from the presence of his grandfather, burdened with the knowledge of what was to come. In the days that followed, the word of God came to Noah. It was a voice like thunder, yet tender with love. "Noah, your fate has come before me, blameless and pure. You are a man of love and righteousness. Even now the angels are building a great wooden structure. When their task is complete, I will lay my hand upon it and bless it. From this vessel, the seed of life will emerge, and the earth will be renewed." God's promise was firm. "Your descendants shall be established forever. They will spread across the earth, not in desolation, but in abundance. They will be fruitful and multiply, and my blessing will rest upon them generation after generation." Then God spoke of the fallen angels. "Those who have brought unrighteousness upon the earth will be cast into the burning valley, the same valley your grandfather Enoch once showed you. It lies in the west, among the mountains rich with gold, silver, iron, and the soft metals of tin and lead. There, a great upheaval will take place, the very waters themselves convulsing with fire. The molten metal will pour forth, and from it will rise a stench of sulfur, joining the burning waters of the valley where the fallen angels are condemned. Noah saw the vision clearly, a valley of fire and flowing streams of molten metal, where those who led mankind astray would be punished for all eternity. But the waters that flowed through the valley would also serve a strange dual purpose. For the kings and the mighty, those who still walked the earth in pride, the waters would bring healing to their bodies. Yet even as their flesh was soothed, their spirits would be tormented, for they had denied the Lord of spirits. Each day they would see their punishment, and yet refuse to believe in his name. As the flames consumed their bodies, the torment of their spirits would grow, changing forever, in proportion to their suffering. Before the Lord of spirits, no word would go unjudged. Their fate was sealed, for they had followed the desires of their flesh and denied the Spirit of the Lord. In that day, the waters themselves would transform. When the fallen angels were punished in the fiery streams, the waters would grow cold. The springs of healing would turn bitter, and those who once sought refuge in their warmth would find only ice. Noah heard the archangel Michael declare, "This judgment upon the angels is a testimony for the kings and rulers of the earth. They have sought these waters for the healing of their bodies, but they will not see, nor will they believe that these same waters will one day burn with unquenchable fire, a fire that will consume them for eternity." In the aftermath of the judgment, my revered grandfather Enoch, with deep solemnity, bestowed upon me the sacred teachings inscribed in the Book of Parables. He meticulously gathered these ancient secrets and revealed them to me with reverent care, as though offering a priceless heirloom of divine wisdom. On that fateful day, Michael, the archangel of might and justice, turned to Raphael and spoke with a voice laden with dread and awe. "The weight of the Spirit, the severity of the judgment upon the hidden truths, is almost too much to bear," he said. "Who among us can endure such a profound and fierce judgment, a judgment so consuming that it causes even the steadfast to melt away?" With troubled resolve, Michael addressed Raphael once more. "Who among the heavenly hosts can remain unmoved by the anguish of this decree? How can any heart remain unshaken by the severity of the judgment that has been pronounced upon those who have led the earth astray?" When Michael stood before the Lord of Spirits, he declared with unyielding resolve, "I will not advocate for them before the Lord, for the anger of the Lord of Spirits burns fiercely against them. They have assumed the place of the Lord, usurping his authority. Therefore, all that was hidden, all that was kept from them, shall now be laid bare, and their fate is sealed for eternity. Neither angel nor man shall share in this judgment. They alone shall bear the weight of their eternal damnation. In the wake of this divine judgment, terror shall grip the hearts of the angels, who will tremble at the sight of the revelations they have shown to mankind. They will be the harbingers of fear, their own names whispered with dread among the earth's inhabitants. Behold the names of these angels, each a bearer of dark secrets and destruction. The first, Samjaza; the second, Artakifa; the third, Armen; the fourth, Kokabel; the fifth, Turael; the sixth, Rumjal; the seventh, Danjal; the eighth, Nekael; the ninth, Barakel; the 10th, Azazel; the 11th, Armaros; the 12th, Batarjal; the 13th, Busasejal; the 14th, Hananel; the 15th, Turel; the 16th, Simapeziel; the 17th, Jetrel; the 18th, Tumael; the 19th, Turel; and the 20th, Rumael, and Azazel once more as the chief among them. These are the leaders of the angels, commanding over hundreds, fifties, and tens. Their names are etched in infamy. The first among them was Jekon, the one who led astray all the sons of God, bringing them down to the earth and leading them into the arms of mortal temptation through the daughters of men. The second, Asbael, imparted to these divine beings wicked counsel, guiding them into impurity by defiling themselves with human flesh. The third, Gadrael, revealed to humankind the grievous instruments of death, the blows and tools of demise, from shields to swords. He led Eve astray and showed mankind the implements of war and destruction, thus perpetuating suffering on the earth. The fourth, Penimu, imparted the knowledge of bitter and sweet, unveiling the secrets of wisdom that led humanity into sin through the invention of writing, an art that has caused untold transgressions from ages past until the present day. For men were never meant to validate their actions with ink and parchment. They were created pure and righteous, unmarred by the destructive knowledge that now consumes them. The fifth angel, Kasdejar, unveiled to humankind the malevolent strikes of spirits and demons, including the fatal smitings of the unborn in the womb, the serpent's bites, and the harms caused by the scorching heat. His revelations brought about the torment of spirits and bodies alike. The sixth, Casbael, revealed the sacred oath he had made with the holy ones, an oath whose power was both formidable and binding. This oath had been entrusted to Michael, holding within it the strength to command and enforce divine order. The secrets of this oath are mighty. It was through this oath that the heavens were established before the world was made, and the earth was founded upon the waters. Beautiful springs emerged from the secret recesses of the mountains, and the seas were set with boundaries that it dare not transgress. The depths were secured, the sun and moon kept their course, and the stars completed their cycles, all by the power of this oath. The spirits of water, winds, and all elements were bound by it, and their paths were preserved from corruption. The voice of thunder, the light of lightning, the chambers of hail and frost, and all elements of weather give thanks and glorify the Lord of spirits eternally, for they are preserved by this oath. Great joy fills their hearts as they bless and extol the name of the Son of Man, who has been revealed and now sits upon the throne of glory. The judgment is given to him, and he will purge the earth of sinners, binding them with chains and casting them into their place of destruction. All their deeds shall vanish from the earth. From this moment forward, corruption shall have no place. The Son of Man, having taken his throne, will banish all evil before his presence. His word shall be strong and potent before the Lord of spirits. And it came to pass that during his earthly life, Enoch's name was exalted and raised to the attention of the Son of Man and the Lord of spirits, surpassing all those who dwelt upon the earth. In a grand celestial ascent, he was lifted upon the chariots of the Spirit, and as his name ascended, it gradually faded from among them. From that moment, Enoch was no longer counted among the mortal realm. Instead, he was placed between the two great winds, between the north and the west. There, the angels meticulously measured the domain allotted for the elect and the righteous. In that sacred space, he beheld the ancient patriarchs and the righteous, those who from the dawn of creation had resided in that exalted realm. It was after this momentous event that Enoch's spirit was transported to the heavens, ascending to the divine realms. There, he beheld the holy sons of God stepping upon fiery paths. Their garments gleamed white, and their faces radiated with the brilliance of freshly fallen snow. He saw two streams of fire, their light akin to the hue of hyacinth, and overwhelmed by the vision, he fell prostrate before the Lord of spirits. The archangel Michael, one of the exalted archangels, took him by his right hand, lifting him gently and guiding him through the divine mysteries. Michael revealed to him the hidden secrets of righteousness and the ultimate truths of the cosmos. He was shown the secrets of the farthest reaches of heaven, the chambers of the stars, and the pathways of the luminaries. all proceeding in divine order before the holy ones. Enoch's spirit was then translated into the heaven of heavens, where he beheld a magnificent structure composed of crystal-clear substances. Within this celestial edifice, tongues of living fire danced between the crystalline walls. He witnessed the girdle encircling this fiery house, adorned with streams of living fire flowing from all four sides. Seraphim, cherubim, and Ophanim, celestial beings who neither slumber nor rest, stood in vigilant guard around the throne of divine glory. Enoch beheld an innumerable host of angels, thousands upon thousands, and 10,000 times 10,000, encircling the divine house. Among them were Michael, Raphael, Gabriel, Phanuel, and other holy angels of the highest order, all moving in and out of that sacred place. From that celestial abode emerged Michael, Gabriel, Raphael, Phanuel, and countless holy angels. Accompanying them was the head of days, his head radiant and pure as wool, his attire beyond description. Overwhelmed, Enoch fell on his face, his entire body slackened, and his spirit was transformed. In this state of divine ecstasy, he cried out with a mighty voice, imbued with the spirit of power, and he blessed, glorified, and extolled the Lord of spirits. The blessings that flowed from Enoch's lips were received with great favor by the head of days. The head of days, accompanied by Michael, Gabriel, Raphael, Phanuel, and an uncountable multitude of angels, approached him. In a voice filled with reverence, the angels spoke to him. "Behold the Son of Man, born unto righteousness. Righteousness envelops him, and the righteousness of the head of days shall never depart from him." The angel continued, "He brings to you a message of peace, a peace that has emanated from the creation of the world and shall endure forever. Walk in his ways, for righteousness shall never abandon him. In his presence you shall find your dwelling and your heritage, and you shall be eternally united with him. Thus shall the Son of Man enjoy length of days, and the righteous shall walk in peace and integrity in the name of the Lord of spirits, forever and ever." Enoch continued to unveil the divine knowledge imparted to him, revealing the profound secrets of the celestial bodies and their movements. Under the guidance of Uriel, the holy angel, Enoch was shown the intricate mechanisms of the heavens. Uriel disclosed to Enoch the precise laws governing the celestial bodies, illustrating how each luminary follows its designated path, according to their orders, dominions, and seasons. These laws are set to remain in place until the dawn of the new creation, which will last for eternity. Uriel began, "The first law of the luminaries is that the sun rises from the eastern portals of heaven and sets in the western portals. There are 6 portals through which the sun ascends, and 6 through which it descends. The moon follows similar paths, rising and setting within these portals, as do the leaders of the stars and their charges, 6 in the east and 6 in the west, all in precise, harmonious order. Additionally, there are many windows flanking these portals on both the right and left. The great luminary, the sun, emerges first. Its circumference mirrors the expanse of the heavens, and it is ablaze with radiant and warming fire. Driven by the wind, its chariot ascends, and as the sun sets, it returns through the northern realms to reach the eastern portals, proceeding to its designated entrance and illuminating the heavens. In the first month, the sun rises through the 4th of the 6 eastern portals, which contains 12 window openings. Each window emits a flame when opened at the appropriate season. For 30 mornings, the sun rises through this 4th portal and sets through the 4th portal in the west, gradually extending the daylight and shortening the night. On the 30th morning, the day surpasses the night by 1/9, with the day comprising 10 parts and the night 8. The sun then transitions to the 5th portal, rising and setting through it for 30 mornings. As it moves, the day lengthens by 2 parts, totaling 11, while the night shortens to 7 parts. Next, the sun advances to the 6th portal, where it rises and sets for 31 mornings. On this day, the daylight doubles the night, with the day measuring 12 parts and the night 6. Afterward, the sun ascends to reduce the length of the day and increase the night. It returns to the 6th portal in the east and completes 30 mornings before diminishing the day by 1 part, making the day 11 parts long and the night 7. Subsequently, the sun departs the 6th portal in the west, traveling to the 5th portal in the east. For 30 mornings, it rises and sets through this portal, decreasing the day length by 2 parts to 10 and increasing the night to 8. The sun continues this pattern, transitioning to the 4th portal for 31 mornings. Here, the day and night become equal, each consisting of 9 parts. The sun then proceeds to the 3rd portal, where it rises and sets for 30 mornings. The night grows longer than the day until the 30th morning, with the night spanning 10 parts and the day 8. Moving to the 2nd portal for 30 mornings, the night lengthens to 11 parts, while the day shortens to 7. Finally, the sun enters the 1st portal for 31 mornings, where the night reaches its longest duration, being double the day. On this day, the night comprises 12 parts and the day 6. The sun completes its orbit, returning to traverse its divisions and setting in the west opposite the portal from which it rose. As a result, the night decreases by 1/9, and the night becomes 11 parts with the day at 7. The sun then re-enters the 2nd portal in the east, following its established path for 30 mornings, rising and setting as before. This causes the night to shorten to 10 parts while the day extends to 8. Subsequently, the sun rises from this portal and sets in the west, eventually returning to the 3rd portal for 31 mornings, where the day and night are equal at 9 parts each. Thus, the cycle completes with a year totaling 364 days. Uriel also showed Enoch the laws governing the moon, the smaller luminary. The moon's circumference, akin to the expanse of heaven, is driven by the wind, and its light is granted in precise measure. The moon rises with a 14th part of its light, Uriel explained, and it continues to grow until the 15th day, when it is fully illuminated. After reaching its fullness, it begins to wane, reducing its light in a precise sequence. This pattern repeats consistently, with the moon completing its cycle in alignment with the sun. In this way, the movements of the moon ensure that the years are accurately measured, maintaining the balance and order of time. Uriel showed Enoch the movements and positions of all the celestial bodies, including the sun, moon, and stars. Each of them follows a fixed path, obeying the commands set by the Lord of Glory, who established them to rule over the heavens and the earth. The angel Uriel then explained the 12 portals located around the sun's chariot. From these portals, rays of sunlight emerge, providing warmth to the earth. He also revealed the portals from which the winds and dew flow, explaining how these forces control the daily and seasonal cycles. There are 12 portals in total, which are used by the sun, moon, and stars to maintain the natural order of the cosmos. Uriel showed how the balance between light and darkness, warmth and cold, prosperity and desolation is sustained by the Creator's design. Finally, Uriel demonstrated the workings of the winds that come from 12 portals around the edges of the earth. These winds bring different outcomes, ranging from blessings and abundance to destruction and desolation. The east wind carries drought and heat, while another from the east brings rain and fertility. The north winds deliver cold and snow, while the winds from the west bring mixed conditions. The laws of the heavens were unveiled before my eyes, Enoch declared, his voice filled with awe. I saw how every star, every planet, and every force of nature moves with perfect precision, following the path assigned to them, maintaining the delicate harmony and balance of all creation. In those days, Uriel spoke unto Enoch, saying, Behold, I have revealed all to you, O Son of Man. I have unveiled the hidden mysteries of the sun and the moon, the sacred leaders of the stars of the heavens, and all those celestial beings who govern their movement, their duties, and the appointed times of their rising and setting. And as he spoke, a shadow seemed to loom over the days of the future, and he declared, In the days when the hearts of men have turned cold, the years shall be shortened, and the earth itself will grieve. The fields and lands that once teemed with life will falter, and the seeds sown will delay their growth. All things that dwell upon the face of the earth shall be altered. Their times will be no more as they once were. The rain, which once fell as a gift from the heavens, shall be withheld, and the skies shall close themselves in silence. As the angel's voice echoed through the winds of prophecy, the sorrow of the earth became clearer. In those days, he continued, the fruits of the earth shall wither, arriving late in their season, if they come at all. The trees, once heavy with life, will hold back their fruits, and the cycles of abundance shall be broken. Even the moon, faithful in her course, shall forsake her path, and not appear at her appointed time. He lifted his gaze towards the heavens and continued, And in those fateful days, the sun itself shall be seen, but not as you have known it. It shall journey toward the edge of the great western chariot, and shine more fiercely than ever before, breaking the sacred order of light. He spoke with a voice filled with lament. The chiefs of many stars shall forsake their appointed paths, and they shall wander, disobedient to the order that was entrusted to them. Their duties and their seasons will be forsaken, and they will fail to appear at the appointed times set by the Creator. The sacred order of the heavens, hidden from the eyes of the sinful, shall become a mystery lost to them, and the minds of men shall stumble in their understanding. They will look to the stars with confusion, erring in their thoughts, and worse still, they will be led astray and worship the stars as gods. The angel's tone grew darker as he foretold the outcome of such folly. Evil will multiply upon the earth, spreading like a plague upon mankind. And with the coming of this evil shall follow a swift and terrible punishment, one so mighty that it shall destroy all who persist in their wickedness. Thus, Uriel concluded his dire warnings, and the silence that followed was heavy with foreboding. In another moment of divine revelation, Uriel then called upon Enoch and said unto him, Behold, gaze upon the heavenly tablets, read what is inscribed upon them, and take heed of every single detail, for the wisdom contained within is for your understanding. Enoch, with reverence, observed the heavenly tablets and read the inscriptions written by the hand of the Almighty. In them were contained all the deeds of mankind, from the beginning of the earth until the remotest generations yet to come. As he read and comprehended the vastness of human history, Enoch's heart was moved, and he blessed the great Lord, the eternal King of glory, for all his wondrous works. His lips spoke praises for the Lord's unending patience, and he blessed him for his mercy upon the children of men. And Enoch, filled with wisdom, declared, Blessed is the man who dies in righteousness and goodness, for there is no record of wrongdoing against him. In his name, no day of judgment shall ever be found. When these revelations had been made known to Enoch, the 7 holy ones who had been his guides brought him back to his earthly abode. They stood before the door of his house and spoke, saying, Enoch, you must now declare these truths to your son Methuselah and to all your children. Show them that no flesh is righteous before the eyes of the Lord, for he is the creator of all. He is the source of all life, and to him alone is judgment reserved. The angelic voices continued, You have been granted but 1 more year to dwell among your kin, so that you may give your final commands and teach your children. Write down all that you have seen and testify to the generations that will come after you. And in the 2nd year, we shall return and take you from the midst of men." Uriel's words were filled with both warning and hope. "Be strong in heart, for the righteous will proclaim righteousness to the righteous. Those who walk in the path of goodness shall rejoice together and offer their blessings to one another. But the sinners shall perish with the sinners, and the apostates will fall into the abyss with those who have abandoned the truth. The righteous, however, though they may suffer because of the deeds of men, shall be taken away to escape the treacherous ways of the godless." When the angels had finished speaking, their voices fell silent, and Enoch returned to his people, his heart full of praise for the Lord of all creation. And in the days that followed, Enoch spoke to his son Methuselah, recounting all the knowledge he had been given, and he wrote down every detail for him. He urged Methuselah to preserve the books and to pass them down through the generations, so that this wisdom, which surpassed the understanding of men, might be known throughout all ages. Enoch spoke solemnly, "I have given you wisdom, my son, and to your children. Ensure that they pass this knowledge on to their descendants, for this wisdom is beyond human thought. Those who understand it will remain vigilant, never sleeping, but listening and learning with eager hearts. To them, this wisdom shall be more satisfying than the finest of foods." He blessed all the righteous, saying, "Blessed are those who walk in the way of righteousness, and do not sin like the sinners." In the reckoning of all their days, the sun moved steadily through the heavens, entering and exiting the portals of the sky for 30 days at a time, always accompanied by the leaders of the stars. But there were 4 extra days interspersed throughout the year, marking the divisions between the seasons, and it was these days that would cause confusion among men. They would fail to account for them correctly, miscalculating the passage of time. These days were sacred, meant to complete the year's cycle, but mankind would struggle to recognize them. The sun's journey completed the year in 364 days, a number that was precise and recorded for all eternity. Uriel, the holy angel who had been given dominion over the hosts of heaven, had shown this to Enoch, revealing the mysteries of the luminaries, the months, the festivals, the years, and the days. Uriel, with his divine authority, held sway over night and day, over the shining of the sun and moon, and the stars that spun endlessly in their heavenly chariots. There was an order to the stars, each one placed in its season, aligned with the festivals and the passing months. The leaders of the stars, those who guided their courses, were appointed by name. 4 powerful beings governed the 4 divisions of the year: Milkiel, Helemelech, Melayal, and Naral. Beneath them, 12 other leaders directed the stars through each month, with countless others ensuring the days and seasons progressed with perfect order. At the start of the year, the leader Melchijal, also known as Tamini, rose first. He governed the sun's rule for 91 days, and during his reign, the earth was marked by sweat, warmth, and calm skies. The trees burst into life, bearing fruit, their leaves unfurling, and the fields blossomed. Wheat ripened for harvest, roses bloomed, and the earth was full of beauty, though the trees of winter stood barren. Under Melchial's guidance were 3 leaders, Berkael, Zelebsel, and Hilujasef, who ruled alongside him. But as his dominion ended, another rose, Helemelech, also called the Shining Sun. His reign too spanned 91 days, but the earth felt the burn of intense heat and dryness. The fruits ripened, heavy and sweet, ready for harvest. The sheep mated and carried their young, and the fields were gathered, their bounty collected in preparation for the winepress. During this time, the leaders who served under Helemelech were Gidaljal, Keel, Heel, and Asphael. each guiding their own order, until once again their rule came to its inevitable end, and the cycle continued, unbroken, as it had been ordained by the Creator himself. And now, Methuselah, my son, listen closely, for I will share with you all the visions that have been revealed to me. These visions, given by the Almighty, have been heavy upon my spirit, and I will recount them to you in their entirety. There were 2 great visions before I took a wife, each one different from the other. The first came when I was still learning the ways of writing, a time when my mind was young and eager. The second, far more terrible, came before I married your mother. It was then that I was shown a dreadful sight, one that chilled me to the core, and in my distress I turned my heart to the Lord in prayer. In that moment, I had laid myself down in the house of my grandfather, Mahalalel. As I slept, the vision overtook me, and I saw the heavens collapse. The very firmament above us was torn away and fell, plunging to the earth with an overwhelming force. And when it struck the earth, I watched in horror as the ground opened into a vast abyss. The mountains, once steadfast and towering, were hurled upon each other, one upon the other, while the hills sank into the depths. Even the great trees, rooted in the earth since ancient times, were ripped from their foundations, cast into the abyss below, as if they were nothing. And then, from the depths of my soul, a word arose, and my mouth was filled with a cry. I lifted my voice and shouted, "The earth is destroyed." At that moment, my grandfather Mahalalel awakened me from my slumber, hearing my cries. He spoke to me with great concern. "Why do you wail so, my son? What has caused this lamentation within you?" I told him of the vision that had been shown to me, every dreadful detail of it. His face grew grave as he listened, and he said, "What you have seen is terrible indeed, my son. Your dream vision reveals the hidden secrets of the world's sin, and the weight of this sin will drag the earth into the abyss. It shall be destroyed with a mighty destruction." He looked at me with urgency and said, "Now rise, my son, and petition the Lord of glory, for you are faithful in his sight. Pray that he might leave a remnant upon the earth, that he does not utterly wipe out all of creation." My heart trembled at his words, and he continued, "For from the heavens this destruction will come, and the earth will be consumed by it." After that I arose and prayed with all my strength. I implored and beseeched the Lord to have mercy, and I wrote down my prayer for the generations to come. I promised that I would show everything to you, Methuselah, so that you might understand the gravity of what is to come. And after my prayer, I went outside and looked upon the heavens. I saw the sun rising in the east, casting its light over the world as it had since the beginning of time. The moon was setting in the west, and a few stars still lingered in the sky. The earth, despite what I had seen, still moved in the rhythm set by the Creator from the dawn of time. And I blessed the Lord, the God of judgment, praising him for his works. For he had made the sun to rise each day, to travel across the sky, following the path that he alone had ordained. Then, with hands lifted high, I praised the Holy and Great One. With the breath given to me by the Lord and the tongue of flesh created for the children of men, I spoke in his name. Blessed art thou, O Lord, King of kings. Great and mighty is thy power, and everlasting is thy greatness. Thou art the Lord of all creation. The heavens are thy throne, and the earth is thy footstool forevermore. All dominion and power belong to thee, for throughout all generations thy reign endures. I continued in my praise. Thou hast created all things, O Lord, and nothing is too difficult for thee. From thy throne wisdom flows unceasing, and from thy presence nothing departs. Thou knowest and seest all, for nothing is hidden from thy sight. But as I prayed, my heart grew heavy with sorrow, for I knew that even the angels, the very hosts of heaven, had trespassed against the Lord. And upon the flesh of men, God's wrath would remain until the day of great judgment. I cried out, "O God, O great King, I implore thee, hear my prayer. Leave me a posterity on this earth. Do not destroy all flesh. Do not let the world be left barren and without inhabitant, succumbing to eternal destruction." With a trembling voice I pleaded, "Let thy wrath fall upon the wicked, but let the righteous be as a seed planted in eternity. Hide not thy face from me, O Lord, hear the prayer of thy servant." After this, another vision came upon me, and I must tell you, my son, all that I saw. Enoch lifted his voice and spoke to Methuselah, "Listen carefully, my son, to the dream vision of your father. Before I took your mother, Edna, as my wife, I saw a vision while lying on my bed. In this vision, I beheld a great bull emerging from the earth, its coat as white as snow. Following it came a heifer, and with her 2 more bulls appeared, one black and the other red. Then the black bull gored the red one and chased him across the earth, and I could see the red bull no more. The black bull grew larger, and the heifer followed him, and from them many oxen were born, each resembling the black bull. I saw that the first cow left the presence of the white bull to search for the red one, but she could not find him. Her grief was great, and she wept bitterly for him, her sorrow filling the earth. But in time the white bull returned to her, comforting her, and she wept no more. Afterward she bore another white bull, and from this bull came many more, black cows among them. I watched in my sleep as the white bull grew and became a mighty creature, larger and stronger than all the others. From him many more white bulls were born, each following the one before in great numbers. As I slept once more, my eyes beheld a vision of the heavens above, and I saw a star fall from the sky. It descended and mingled among the oxen, grazing and feeding alongside them. Then I observed the large, dark oxen, and I saw that they had all shifted their stalls and pastures, intertwining their lives. They began to dwell together as one. In another vision, I looked up again, and many stars descended from heaven, converging upon that first fallen star. These stars transformed into bulls and joined the cattle, pasturing among them. I watched in astonishment as these newly formed bulls extended their organs like horses and covered the cows of the oxen. From this union, the cows bore strange offspring, elephants, camels, and asses. Fear gripped all the oxen at the sight of these monstrous creatures. Terrified, they began to bite and devour each other, goring with their horns. The earth itself trembled with fear and fled from their presence. In the vision, I witnessed a terrible sight. These creatures began to gore and devour one another, and the earth cried out in anguish. I lifted my eyes once more to heaven, and in the vision, beings like white men emerged from the celestial realm. 4 of these beings stepped forward, accompanied by 3 others. The 3 who arrived last seized me by the hand, lifting me away from the earthly generations and elevating me to a high and lofty place. They showed me a towering structure that loomed above the earth, while all the surrounding hills appeared small in comparison. One of the beings said to me, "Stay here and watch everything that happens to these elephants, camels, and asses, as well as the stars and the oxen. Observe all that befalls them." In the vision, I saw one of the first 4 beings who had come forth. He seized the original star that had fallen from heaven, binding it hand and foot before casting it into a narrow, deep, and dreadful abyss. Then another being drew a sword and handed it to the elephants, camels, and asses. Armed with this weapon, they began to strike each other, causing the earth to quake with the intensity of their conflict. As I watched, one of the four beings who had descended from heaven began to hurl stones at these creatures. He gathered all the great stars whose organs resembled those of horses, bound them hand and foot, and cast them into the same abyss of the earth, leaving them confined and helpless. One of the four beings approached the white bull and revealed a profound secret to him, causing no fear. The bull, transformed into a man, constructed a magnificent vessel for himself and dwelled within it. Alongside him, 3 other bulls took refuge in the vessel, their presence shielded within. Once more, I directed my gaze toward the heavens and beheld a towering roof, adorned with 7 torrents of water. These torrents poured forth an abundance of water into a vast enclosure. I looked again, and fountains erupted on the floor of that great enclosure, causing the water to rise and swell. The enclosure gradually filled with water until it was entirely submerged. As the water deepened, darkness and mist thickened. The water crested above the enclosure's height and began to overflow, covering the earth beneath. All the cattle within the enclosure were gathered together, and I watched as they sank, consumed by the rising waters and perished within their depths. The vessel, however, remained afloat, while all the oxen, elephants, camels, and asses sank beneath the water, disappearing from sight and meeting their doom. In the vision, I saw the torrents recede from the towering roof, revealing the earth's surface. Chasms were filled, and new abysses opened up. The waters drained into these new chasms, making the earth visible once again. The vessel settled on solid ground as darkness receded and light emerged. The white bull, now a man, emerged from the vessel along with the 3 bulls who had accompanied him. One was white like him, another was blood red, and the last was black. The white bull departed from them. The bulls began to create beasts of the field and birds, leading to the emergence of diverse species: lions, tigers, wolves, dogs, hyenas, wild boars, foxes, squirrels, swine, falcons, vultures, kites, eagles, and ravens. Among these, a new white bull was born. Conflict arose among these creatures, but the newly born white bull fathered a wild ass and another white bull. The wild asses multiplied from this lineage. The bull, born from the first white bull, sired a black wild boar and a white sheep. The wild boar produced many offspring, while the sheep gave birth to 12 lambs. As the 12 lambs grew, one was given to the wild asses, who then passed it to the wolves. This sheep matured among the wolves. The lord of the sheep gathered the 11 remaining lambs and brought them to live and graze among the wolves. The flocks multiplied, growing numerous. The wolves, terrified of the increasing sheep, oppressed them fiercely, destroying their young and casting them into a river of great waters. The sheep cried out in anguish over their lost young and pleaded with their lord. One sheep, having escaped the wolves, fled to the wild asses. I witnessed the sheep's lament and their fervent pleas to their lord, who descended from his exalted dwelling in response. He called the sheep that had escaped and instructed it to warn the wolves not to harm the sheep. The sheep, following the Lord's command, went to the wolves, accompanied by another sheep. Together they entered the wolves' assembly and admonished them to cease their attacks on the sheep. Despite this, I saw how the wolves continued to oppress the sheep with all their might, causing them to cry out in distress. The Lord came to the sheep, and they began to fight against the wolves. The wolves in their turn lamented, but the sheep's cries ceased. I observed as the sheep left the wolves behind, while the wolves, blinded and enraged, pursued them with relentless vigor. The Lord of the sheep led them, his presence radiant and awe-inspiring. All the sheep followed him, their faces illuminated by his glory. The wolves chased the sheep until they reached a vast sea. The sea parted, standing as walls of water on either side, with their Lord guiding them and placing himself between the sheep and the wolves. As the wolves, unable to see the sheep, ventured into the sea, they followed them into the midst of the waters, their pursuit unceasing. As the wolves caught sight of the Lord of the sheep, they turned in terror to flee from his formidable presence. The sea, however, gathered itself and returned to its original state. The waters surged and rose, ultimately engulfing the wolves. I witnessed the dreadful scene as every wolf that had pursued the sheep was drowned and perished in the swelling sea. Yet the sheep escaped from the watery deluge and ventured into a barren wilderness, devoid of water and sustenance. In this desolate land, their eyes were opened to their surroundings. I observed the Lord of the sheep tenderly pasturing them, providing both water and grass, while the leading sheep guided them. The leading sheep ascended to the peak of a towering rock, and the Lord of the sheep sent it back to the flock. I saw the Lord of the sheep standing before them, his appearance majestic, awe-inspiring, and fearsome. The sight of him instilled profound fear in the sheep. They trembled and quaked in his presence, crying out to the leading sheep, "We cannot endure the sight of our Lord, nor stand before him." The leading sheep climbed again to the top of the rock, but the sheep began to lose their way and wander from the path it had shown them, though the sheep remained unaware of their deviation. The Lord of the sheep grew exceedingly wrathful with them. The leading sheep, sensing this, descended from the rock and found the majority of the sheep blinded and strayed. Upon encountering the straying flock, they trembled in fear at its presence and longed to return to their safe pastures. The leading sheep gathered other sheep and went to those who had wandered. It began to cull the wayward sheep, instilling fear in them, and thereby leading the strays back to their fold. In the vision, I saw the leading sheep transform into a man and construct a grand house for the Lord of the sheep, placing all the sheep within it. I saw how the sheep met with the leading sheep that had become a man, who then fell asleep. The grand sheep perished, and smaller ones rose in their stead, leading the flock to a new pasture and a flowing stream of water. The leader, now a man, withdrew from the sheep and fell asleep, causing great mourning among the flock. They cried out desperately for their lost leader. Eventually, the sheep ceased their cries and crossed the stream. New leaders emerged, 2 sheep taking charge where the old ones had fallen asleep. I witnessed the sheep arrive in a beautiful, lush land. The sheep thrived and were satisfied in this pleasant place where the house stood among them. At times their vision was clear, and other times it was obscured, until a new sheep arose to lead them, restoring their sight. As the sheep faced challenges from dogs, foxes, and wild boars, the Lord of the sheep raised a ram from their midst to lead them. The ram fought fiercely against the predators, ultimately destroying them all. However, the ram that had once been glorious grew corrupt and began to assault and trample the sheep, misusing its power. The Lord of the sheep appointed another lamb, transforming it into a ram to replace the fallen leader. This new ram became the prince and leader of the sheep. But during these events, the sheep continued to suffer from oppression by the dogs. The first ram pursued the second, but the second ram fled in fear. Eventually, the dogs overpowered and brought down the first ram. The second ram then took charge, leading the sheep. The flock multiplied and grew, while the predators fled in fear before the ram's might. The ram defeated the wild beasts, which no longer had power over the sheep. The ram fathered many sheep before falling asleep. A young sheep then succeeded him as ram and became the new leader. The house grew large and expansive, built for the sheep, and a towering structure was erected for the Lord of the sheep. This house, though low, was overshadowed by the grand tower where the Lord resided, and the sheep provided a full table before him. Yet I saw that once again the sheep strayed and forsook their house. The Lord of the sheep sent emissaries from among them, but these were slain by the sheep. One emissary survived and cried out over the flock, but the Lord saved it and brought it to me to dwell there. Many other sheep were sent to lament and testify to the flock, But when they abandoned the Lord's house and tower, they fell away completely. Their eyes were blinded, and the Lord wrought great slaughter among them until they invited their own ruin. He delivered them into the hands of lions, tigers, wolves, hyenas, foxes, and all wild beasts, who tore the sheep to pieces. The Lord abandoned the house and tower, leaving the sheep at the mercy of the wild beasts. They were ravaged and devoured. In my distress I cried out with all my strength, pleading with the Lord of the sheep to intervene as the wild beasts continued to devour his flock. Yet the Lord of the sheep remained unmoved, even as he watched the devastation unfold before his eyes. He rejoiced in their being devoured, swallowed, and plundered, leaving them at the mercy of the ravenous beasts. Then he summoned 70 shepherds and handed the sheep over to them, commanding them, "Each of you shall now tend to the sheep and do everything I instruct you. I will give you a specific number of sheep, and you are to destroy only those I command you to." He entrusted the sheep to their care. But he also called upon another and said, "Observe everything the shepherds do to the sheep. Watch closely, for they will destroy more than I have ordered. Record every excess and all the destruction they commit. Note how many perish by my decree, and how many fall by their reckless will. Document the wrongdoings of each shepherd." And to this observer he added, "Do not reveal this to the shepherds, neither warn them nor speak to them of their misdeeds. Simply write down every sheep they destroy and present the full account to me." In time, the shepherds began to tend the sheep, but they slaughtered far more than they were instructed. They handed the sheep over to the lions and other wild beasts. The lions and tigers tore through the sheep, devouring them in great numbers. Even the wild boars feasted on them. And the shepherds set fire to the tower and brought the house of the sheep crashing down. Sorrow weighed heavily upon me as I gazed upon the ruins of the tower. For the house of the sheep lay in rubble, and I could no longer tell if any of the sheep had managed to return to it. The shepherds and their accomplices continued to surrender the sheep to the wild beasts, each receiving a fixed number. Meanwhile, the observer faithfully recorded in his book how many sheep each shepherd destroyed, and many more perished than was decreed. I could not contain my grief, and I wept bitterly for the slaughtered sheep. In my vision I saw the one who kept the record bringing the book before the Lord of the sheep. Every name, every act of destruction was written down, and the book was laid before him. The Lord read it, sealed it, and set it aside. I continued to watch as the shepherds pastured for 12 more hours. In that time, 3 sheep turned back and entered the ruins, rebuilding what had been lost. They began to restore the tower, which was then called the High Tower. They also set a table before it, but the bread they placed upon it was defiled, impure. Yet throughout all this, the eyes of the sheep remained blinded, and so too were the eyes of their shepherds. The sheep were delivered into the hands of their shepherds, only to be trampled and devoured. The Lord of the sheep, however, remained unmoved, even as his flock was scattered across the fields and mingled with the wild beasts. The shepherds made no effort to save them. Once again, the observer who had written down all these things took the book and brought it before the Lord of the sheep. He pleaded earnestly on behalf of the sheep and testified against the shepherds, laying bare their many transgressions. The Lord accepted the book and placed it beside him before the observer departed. I saw that 35 more shepherds were appointed to pasture the sheep, each fulfilling their term. As before, others took over when their time was up, continuing the cycle. Then I saw the sky darken as flocks of birds descended upon the sheep, eagles, vultures, kites, and ravens. But it was the eagles who led the assault. They began to feast on the sheep, tearing at their flesh and gouging out their eyes. The sheep cried out in agony as their bodies were devoured, and I, in my sleep, wept and mourned for the shepherds who had been entrusted with their care. The dogs, eagles, and kites continued their feast, leaving no trace of flesh, skin, or sinew. Only the bare bones of the sheep remained, and even those bones crumbled to the earth as the sheep dwindled in number. I watched as 23 more shepherds took up their duties, each fulfilling their period, spanning 58 more times. But amidst this horror, new lambs were born to the white sheep. Their eyes opened, and they began to cry out to the rest of the flock. Though the lambs called to their elders, the older sheep were deaf to their pleas, their ears blind to the truth. Then I saw the ravens swoop down upon the lambs. One lamb was seized, dashed to the ground, and devoured. Yet despite this, horns began to grow upon the lambs, though the ravens tried to tear them down. In time, one sheep sprouted a great horn, and its eyes were opened fully. This sheep turned and gazed upon the others, crying out to them. The rams heard the call, and they all rushed toward the one with the great horn. Even after all of this, the eagles, vultures, ravens, and kites continued their merciless attack, swooping down upon the sheep and tearing into them, devouring their flesh. And though the sheep suffered, they remained silent, while the rams cried out in sorrow and anguish. The ravens, desperate to overpower the ram, fought fiercely against it, seeking to break its mighty horn, yet they had no strength to defeat it. I watched as the shepherds, along with the eagles, vultures, and kites, called upon the ravens to shatter that ram's horn. They joined forces in a violent struggle, but the ram fought back with great desperation, crying out for deliverance. And then, before my eyes, the man who recorded the names of the shepherds descended from the presence of the Lord of the sheep. He came to the aid of the ram, revealing to it all that had been written. His arrival was the ram's salvation. At last, the Lord of the sheep appeared, his wrath burning like an unquenchable fire. Upon seeing him, all who had gathered, shepherds, beasts, and birds alike, fled in terror, scrambling to escape his gaze. They were cast into his shadow, consumed by fear. The eagles, vultures, ravens, and kites were all gathered together, and the sheep of the fields came as well, uniting with the beasts and birds in their efforts to break the ram's horn. But I saw the man who had written the book open it, presenting the record of the 12 last shepherds. They had wrought greater destruction than any before them. The Lord of the sheep saw this and was filled with fury. The Lord took his staff of wrath in hand, and with a mighty blow he struck the earth. The ground split open, and all the beasts and birds of the heavens that had tormented the sheep were swallowed by the earth, which closed upon them, sealing their doom. Then I saw that a great sword was given to the sheep. With this weapon they rose against the beasts of the field, slaying them in vengeance. The beasts and birds fled from the sheep, but none could escape their wrath. In the land of peace, a great throne was erected, and the Lord of the sheep seated himself upon it. The man who had written the book brought out the sealed records and opened them before the Lord. The Lord called forth 7 men, clothed in white, and commanded them to bring before him the stars, whose hidden sins were like the impurities of horses. These stars were brought before him, trembling in judgment. Then the Lord turned to the man who had been recording all the events and said, "Take those 70 shepherds, those to whom I entrusted the sheep, and who, acting out of their own will, slaughtered far more than I commanded. And behold, I saw that they were all bound, and they stood before the Lord, trembling in their guilt. Judgment was passed first upon the stars. They were found guilty, condemned, and cast into a blazing abyss filled with unrelenting flames, burning pillars of fire. The 70 shepherds faced their judgment next, and they too were found guilty. They were hurled into the same fiery abyss, their fate sealed. As I continued to watch, the earth opened yet again, revealing another abyss of fire in its depths. The blinded sheep were brought before it, and they too were judged. All were found guilty, and one by one they were cast into the flames, where they burned until nothing remained but ashes. This abyss lay to the right of the house of the sheep. I watched in horror as the sheep burned, their very bones consumed by the fire. And then I saw the house of old, the house that had sheltered the sheep, being folded up. Its pillars, beams, and ornaments were all taken down and carried away, placed in a distant land to the south. But then a new house appeared, greater and more magnificent than the first. It was set up in the place of the old, its pillars stronger, its decorations grander. All the sheep that remained were gathered into this new house. As I looked upon the scene, I saw all the beasts of the earth and birds of the sky bowing in submission to the sheep. They made supplications and obeyed the sheep in all things. The Lord of the sheep rejoiced greatly, for all the sheep had returned to his house. In that moment, the three men clothed in white, who had once taken me by the hand, appeared again. They, along with the ram, lifted me up and placed me in the midst of the sheep, just before judgment was to commence. The sheep were now clothed in pure white wool, abundant and clean. All those who had been destroyed or scattered were gathered in the new house, and the Lord rejoiced with overwhelming joy at their return, for they were now good and faithful. I watched as the sword, once given to the sheep, was taken back into the house, and it was sealed before the presence of the Lord. All the sheep were invited into the house, though it could not contain them all, for they were so numerous. Suddenly, all their eyes were opened, and they beheld the goodness that surrounded them. Not one among them was blind, for all could see clearly. I saw that the house was vast and spacious, filled to the brim with the sheep. Then from among them a white bull was born with large horns. All the beasts of the field and birds of the sky feared him and sought his favor, making petitions to him without ceasing. I watched as the generations of the sheep were transformed, one after the other, until they all became white bulls. Among them, the first one became a lamb, but this lamb grew into a mighty beast with great black horns upon its head. The Lord of the sheep rejoiced over this lamb and all the oxen. In the midst of them, I fell into a deep sleep, and when I awoke, I had seen everything. This is the vision that came to me in my sleep. When I awoke, I blessed the Lord of righteousness and glorified his name. But I could not stop weeping. Tears flowed without end as the weight of all I had seen overwhelmed me. I wept because I knew that everything would come to pass, and all the deeds of men, each in their time, had been revealed to me. That night, I remembered my first dream, and the vision filled me with sorrow and unrest. I wept for what I had witnessed, for the fate of all was laid bare before me.